Welcome again to the Entrepreneur TV show. My name is Lucy Jeffrey, and I'm the host of this show. I've been doing this since 2019, and I have enjoyed having you here, our viewers. I would like to remind you that this show is sponsored by the Entrepreneur Nation, and the Entrepreneur Nation is a business development group here in London. It's really a community that we started in London, Ontario, and spread countrywide. So today we have a great guest, and the guest is Adam Wagman, and he's a personal injury lawyer in Toronto. He's also the past president of Ontario Trial Lawyers. As soon as I turn the screen, you'll be able to see Adam right here. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here with you.
We are so happy to have you. And I wanted to give you a surprise that you are the first personal injury lawyer that we're having on this show, and we've been doing it for almost 4 years.
Well, that's wonderful. Again, I really appreciate it. And it's nice to be able to talk a little bit of personal injury law with your audience and maybe shed some light on some things that people had questions about.
Awesome, great. So then, without wasting your time, I know you are a very busy lawyer, and I will not keep you for too long. I want to say, first of all, thank you for finding the time to come to the show. And thank you for your responses, because when I reached out to you, it was quick, very fast. I can imagine that your clients get the same quick, fast service, and I appreciate you for that. Adam, I'm going to focus on 3 areas today. Your personal injury lawyer and your practice. You can tell us a little bit about your background, and we will talk about entrepreneurship, and we definitely will talk about your leadership as the past president of Ontario Trial Lawyers Association. So without wasting your time then, I would like to ask you, Adam, to tell our viewers a little bit more about you. Probably what you did before you became a lawyer. Probably what are your hobbies. They say people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So we like building that trust before we go to the legal practice.
Well, that's great, and I could probably talk about all those things for the entire half an hour that we have, but I'll make it quick. I grew up north of Toronto in Thornhill. Loved my life there. My parents worked very, very hard. I was the oldest of 4 kids, and including obviously spending a lot of time on schoolwork. I was pretty busy, and that's been, I guess, the story of my life. My career is being busy with so many different things that I really enjoyed. Back then, it was coming home from school, helping to make dinner, take care of my younger siblings. Really moved really quickly through high school. I don't know why I was in such a rush, and I kind of mentor younger people to maybe slow down a little bit. But do as I say, not as I do. I went to Western in London, obviously, skipped grade 13 and just went right to school. Back then we had grade 13 in Ontario. Loved my time at Western, but also very busy. I worked at Swiss Chalet. Loved my time there. That's how I made money to put myself through university, as well as some help from my parents. And then U of T Law School. But all of that was done with the support of just a wonderful family. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife of almost 30 years, my good friends, social support system. I'm not sure how I would have gotten to be sitting in the seat talking to you today without a tremendous amount of support from many people. So in addition to that, as I said, I love to stay busy. You see my guitar in the background. That's one of my hobbies. I got my chessboard in the background. That's one of my hobbies. I spend a lot of time with my family. I love to stay very active. I love to cycle. I love to do charity work. Love to volunteer. Love to mentor. And in my spare time, I find time to practice law.
Wonderful. Really great to hear that, Adam. And you have a beautiful office there. I'm happy to hear
Thanks.
that some of your hobbies as being a musician. Thank you so much. So I want to ask you then, people of course go to law school, and there are so many areas of law, right? Mm-hmm. How did you decide that you wanted to be a personal injury lawyer? And while you are there, I've noticed that on LinkedIn, on your profile, you say that you are happy personal injury lawyer. I actually checked you out on Twitter as well, happy personal injury lawyer. So what made you pick personal injury and stick with it? Because sometimes I see lawyers changing here and there.
Well, as I said, wife of 30 years, same firm essentially for my entire career. I'm not a big fan of change. I wish I could tell you that there was a grand plan, that's how I became a personal injury lawyer, but that wouldn't be true. I went to, as I said, I went to U of T Law School at a time when there was really no education about personal injury or insurance law. Everybody seemed pretty focused on Bay Street, big firm, and that wasn't me. That wasn't my personality. That's not what I wanted to do. I know that I knew at the time that what I wanted to do was help people, and I really did like litigation. But beyond that, I really never heard of personal injury law as a practice area. I ended up doing an articling interview at a firm called Thomson Rogers, great firm, and that's where I started my career. And at the time, I was being interviewed by a partner who was very stoic. And as you can tell, I'm not particularly stoic. I like to laugh. I like to talk. This gentleman was not that. And I came away from that interview thinking, boy, that guy really hated me. That's too bad because this firm looks fantastic. I'd love to work here. And I have worked every day of my career with that man since that time. That was Jim Howie who interviewed me. I ended up at Thomson Rogers, which had a number of different areas of litigation at the time, personal injury being one of them. But I really loved personal injury. I love helping people. That's where my passion's always been. I thought I'd be a doctor, maybe a dentist. I don't know. I broke the chalk on my dental exams, so that went out the window. Didn't do very well on organic chemistry, so medicine went out the window. But helping people was always what I wanted to do. And finding personal injury as an area of law that was both fascinating and really allowed me to focus on helping individuals it was made for me. And after a few years at Thomson Rogers, Jim Howie came to me and we started talking about the fact that he was going to start his own firm with Neil Sachs and Michael Henry. That was our department at the time, and they asked me as a young lawyer to come along. And one of the pieces of advice that I do a lot of mentoring. One of the pieces of advice that I give to young lawyers and students about picking an area of the law that makes sense for them or any career that makes sense for them is to find something that you love to do and find people that you love to do it with, and everything else will work itself out from there, or at least should. And that's what I did. I loved working with Jim and Neil and Mike, and we moved on, and David Levy came and joined us right off the start. And it's been a great, I guess, going on 24 years at Howie, Sachs and Henry. We focus really on helping people who have had some sort of tragedy or horrible thing happen to them. And even it may sound crazy. Why would you like to do that? Why do you want to wade into people's lives when they're at their worst, when they're at their lowest? Simply because when we're done with them, generally speaking, they're a lot better off than when we started with them. They're in a much better place. Their lives are better. Their families are better, hopefully. And that is an extremely rewarding thing to be able to do day to day as a lawyer, or frankly, in any other area.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that, Adam. We definitely appreciate you. And when we talk about consistency, we are going to see that through this interview, how you have been consistent in many ways and in many areas. But I wanted to ask you, because I've done a lot of research about you, of course, before I bring anyone on TV, I want to make sure. I've seen that because of your experience, people are coming to you for complex situations like brain injury. So what are exactly situations of personal injuries that you find people are seeking you out for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, anywhere that bad things can happen to people is something that would lead to a person needing to seek out a personal injury lawyer. Most commonly these days, and for the last while, that's been in car accidents. That's the most dangerous thing that we do, frankly, on a day-to-day basis. And it is the reason that too many people, frankly, suffer injuries and disabilities. But we handle all sorts of different cases, product liability cases, falls or other occupiers liability situations. Our firm handles mass tort and class action work. We are handling a lawsuit on behalf of the provinces and on behalf of the federal government against the manufacturers and distributors of opioids in order to help recover the cost of the opioid crisis. We have a big practice in the area of nursing home negligence, helping who I believe to be the most vulnerable Ontarians and Canadians, our elderly, who live in these homes and who deserve to be cared for properly and to have some dignity at that point in their lives. And there's a whole host of other areas. Really, any way in which people, I should mention our medical negligence practice, but really any way that people can be very seriously injured, that's when we like to step in and help. And as I said, to make their lives better and leave them much better off than how we found them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. And so I think this one, I didn't tell you about it, but I know you can answer it without even thinking. So you said that car accidents didn't cause the main injuries. And I watched a video as I was preparing to talk to you today, Adam. I watched a video where you are speaking to young people, and I like it when you say you love mentoring, speaking to young people and telling them what to avoid so they don't get into car accidents. Please, would you like to take this time and tell our viewers what they should do to avoid car accidents? I think we know, but we don't mind being reminded by our personal injury lawyers because I think you have seen it all.
Sure. Well, look, I do love mentoring students and younger people, and obviously there's a number of different considerations that you've got when talking to a group of I think that video was high school students as opposed to talking to the community at large. But look, you're right. I'm going to tell you things that you already know. And despite knowing that people shouldn't be on their phones while they drive their car, I challenge you to drive around. Well, I live in Toronto. Drive around this city for 15 minutes and look around and look at every driver and find a 15-minute period of time where you don't see someone on their phone while they're driving a car. It's impossible. People are distracted constantly, whether that's by their phones, their devices, their radios, eating, whatever it is that they're doing in their car. But as I said earlier, it is literally one of the most dangerous things that we engage in on a day-to-day basis, and yet people simply don't pay attention. And that frankly goes to, I'm a cyclist, as I mentioned, that goes to cyclists, that goes to pedestrians. If we all looked out for each other, this world would be a lot safer, and I'd probably have to find a new line of work, which I'd be happy to do, by the way. I'm probably not at any risk of having to find a new thing to do, but that's really the key these days is distraction. Again, simple little things, reduce your speed, keep a little more distance between yourself and the car in front of you. Again, if people did those three things, really reduce their speed, keep a little more space to the car in front of them, and were not distracted, I bet you, 75 to 80% of accidents would disappear. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one who's been saying these things, and a lot of people sadly don't realize how dangerous driving and the use of our roadways are until something bad has happened.
You know what? It's good to hear from you because sometimes we think the police officers are just telling us what to do. So when we hear it from you, it makes a difference there, and thank you for that. So then, Adam, you are very well experienced lawyer, and I know you are dealing with very complex cases. I know these complex cases cost you your time, the law firm, and I wanted to ask you, do you work on contingency? Because of course people are very sick, they are going through treatment. The last thing they want to think about is the legal fees.
Yeah. Look, the short answer is yes, of course. And it's why when you hear all those ads from personal injury law firms, not really ours. We don't really advertise on television or radio. But you hear, if we don't win, you don't pay. And the reality of the situation is people couldn't pay us for our services even if they wanted to most of the time. Our clients can't work for the most part. How are they supposed to pay legal fees when they have problems paying their mortgage or for their children's education? People could not possibly afford the really tens of thousands of dollars just in disbursements, let alone legal fees, for the work that we do. And so as a result, we and any other reputable personal injury lawyer out there works on a contingency fee basis. And that allows access to justice. And that's something that I've talked a lot about in my career, whether it was through the Ontario Trial Lawyers Association or otherwise, the importance of allowing people to access justice in this province, not just people who've got a lot of money or large companies. We need to give everybody an opportunity to access our court system if they've been wronged in some way. And contingency fees are really the great equalizer. It's what permits people to retain the best lawyer that they can find, knowing, number one, that they aren't going to be out of pocket for hundreds of thousands of dollars if things go wrong, and knowing that there's really no impediment to them getting the justice that they deserve. And so contingency fees are a huge part of access to justice in Ontario.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. So, Adam, I want to ask you two questions in one. One is, I've served lawyers for over 5 years, so I know a little bit. And I know within personal injury, you can decide to become a plaintiff personal injury lawyer, or you can decide to be on the insurance side. So you decided to become a plaintiff personal injury lawyer because you like helping people. That's what you have told us. So the question I want to ask you is, why did you decide to become a plaintiff personal injury lawyer? I think the insurance companies pay more. And two, can you share with us like examples, without talking about your personal client situations, 2 tough cases that you have come across in the 23 plus years that you have been doing personal injury? Something that you have fought the insurance companies and won against them.
Yeah. Again, we could talk war stories for a long time on the show. But let me start where you started, which is doing plaintiff personal injury. I come back to, I've done some research about you too, Lucy, and starting out as a teacher, and then developing that love to help people. And to make people better and to help people better themselves into a business is part of that, entrepreneurship that you have and that you share with others. That's also something that's relevant to personal injury law. Insurance law, you're working for, as you can imagine, large insurance companies. And this is, I don't mean to downplay the difficulty of getting insurance company clients. I've got tons of friends. Some of my closest friends are insurance lawyers. I have great respect for the work that they do and how they do it when they do it well. And if they can go out and get, 3, 4, 5 insurance companies to send them work, that's enough work to last them a career. In our business, hopefully, we don't have repeat clients. And so we are constantly needing to have that business-minded spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit that allows us to come up with new ways to let the public know what we're doing, to build a reputation that we can rely upon, to get clients, to help people understand, to have confidence in us and the work that we do. And I really do. I love that part of the business as well. As I said, I'm a pretty busy person. I spend a lot of time out for lunches, out for dinners, volunteering my time at organizations, all of those things, both because I love to do it and because it's part of that spirit that goes into to building this kind of business. I could have been an insurance lawyer as well. Again, a great area of practice, same types of legal challenges that obviously we deal with on our side of the fence, but just a little bit of a different mentality. And like you said, it does at the end of the day come down to helping people. In terms of stories, and again, I could go on certainly, but I had a trial a few years ago about a pediatrician who was walking down the street and was hit by an A-frame sign that had been put out by a condo developer. And these signs, especially on the weekends in downtown, they're all over the place. They're littering the sidewalks. And this sign was there on a very windy day, and the wind kind of knocked it up, and she's relatively a small woman. The sign came up and hit her in the face and knocked her back onto her head, knocked her out. And as a result, she had a mild traumatic brain injury. It was a very challenging case because the people who put the sign out, whether it was this condo corporation, a developer, or whether it was this company that was just putting them out on the streets, thought that they did nothing wrong, that they're allowed to go and take their signs and put them all over the sidewalks to some degree without any thought about how that was going to affect pedestrians who were there to use the sidewalks. They really refused to make any reason, especially the condo, the developer, not the company that put the signs out, but the developer just refused to take really any responsibility for it. And so as a result, we had to go through a trial, following which a jury found that developer, who had refused to make really any reasonable offer of settlement, that they were 96% responsible for the way that this accident happened, that injured this pediatrician, that took away, for the most part, her ability to practice medicine and to have the career that she had previously. And it was a long battle, and it was, fortunately for her, a successful ending. I wouldn't call it a happy ending. None of my cases have happy endings because people are still left with injuries and disabilities and limitations. But at the very least, what our system can provide is reasonable compensation to people. And if that's what we're able to accomplish, then I do feel like that's at least some sort of happy ending. It's when you start with people from day one and you tell them you're going to go all the way for them, and you spend years doing that. And frankly, we put our money where our mouth is. If we're going to tell our client that we're going to take a case to trial, if necessary, we're going to take a case to trial. And that's what we did. It's a very rewarding situation. Again, I can go on and on about lots of other cases that, it will do to your listeners what it does to my children, which is, frighten them from doing just about anything. We recently had a very difficult scuba diving case where a young woman was really left in a vegetative state after a horrible incident, about 70 feet underwater. Very, very challenging, but we work with such wonderful experts who help us understand in detail each of these different different activities, different things that can happen to people, who help us understand what should have happened, how this should have gone differently, why this woman shouldn't have been in the water, why this woman should have been treated differently. And really working with people allows us to bring that expertise to bear on the legal side of things, and to get again, at the end of the day, a fair result. And that's, the thing that I talk to my friends on the insurance defense side about all the time, and again, young students coming up and doing that, is we really have the same job. Our job is to figure out, what is fair compensation for an individual who's had something bad happen to them. And as I said, I work with fantastic lawyers on the insurance side of things. And if I can show them what reasonable compensation is and why their client ought to be paying that reasonable compensation, more often than not, the good lawyers on the other side of these cases are able to sit down and we're able to come to an agreement. And that's what happens in some of the cases that, and thankfully most of the cases that don't need to go to trial.
Thank you. You know what? I never even thought about that. Someone being hit by the sign and scuba diving and all that. So really, that's why we need to bring you more often, Adam, because I know you have so many other cases. So you can keep reminding us on what we need to do to be safe out there. Thank you. But let me put a smile on your face now, because I want to talk about your awards. After doing all what you have done and fighting for your clients, which is really a very sad sign of situation, you have been recognized so much and given so many awards for your work. One, I see that you're certified as a specialist in litigation by the Law Society of Ontario. I see that you are ranked as one of the top lawyers by Lee Expert and Best Lawyers. Please speak to us about the awards and what you want to do to accomplish that.
Sure. Well, first of all, those awards, well, I'm always obviously very honored when anyone provides me with any sort of recognition. Really, those awards, they make me blush a little bit, but they're mostly for my mother, so that she can share those things with her friends and be very proud. I try not to take them too seriously, to be honest with you. But any awards for any professional, in my opinion, is about the team that professional has around them. I've received recognition that I really ascribe to having a great team behind me at Howie, Saxon Henry. My fantastic law clerks, Tanya and Padma, who've been with me for so many years, they probably lost count. My partners who I've spoken about previously, my group includes a couple of my partners, Joel and Melissa, my associates, Daniel and Victoria, all of my team. None of this would be possible without their help and support. And so when I get some sort of recognition from Best Lawyers or from Lexpert, it makes me smile for a minute, but it makes me just so happy and so thankful that I've got such a great group around me. I received a couple of awards that I ascribed to Trial Lawyers Association, and some work that I did on the board there for many years. And again, none of that would have been possible at all without the help of the rest of the fantastic board, the presidents of that organization who came before me, the leadership within the organization, wonderful, hardworking, dedicated people. And when you're the face of an organization or the face of a law firm or the face of a group, maybe that's because you're the person that put their hands up and the person that doesn't mind speaking in front of a crowd, but it's not because you did all the work, and that's for sure. So, I've been very, very blessed in my career to be surrounded by fantastic people, and any success that I have really is because of them, and of course, like anybody else, with the support of their family. None of this would have been possible without my wife and my kids understanding the sacrifices that we would all have to make and continue to make to some degree. And so again, I thank all of them. I'm very proud to have received those awards so that I can really give them the credit, not because I think I've done something particularly special.
Thank you, Adam. So our viewers, I'm intentionally trying to put a smile on the face of a personal injury lawyer who has been dealing with difficult situations. And so now I'm diving into your leadership skills. The positive side, Adam, is what we are going to deal with now in the next session. I noticed that in the law firm where you work, I'm happy that you told us that you started with them from the get-go, but you've held increasingly senior positions in that law firm. I believe that I saw that you have actually been a managing partner at some point, and you have been very consistent with them for, I think, over 20 years. Here is what I want to ask you to share with our young lawyers watching you now. I see that some of them want to move from one law firm to another, and I think they tell me that's how they achieve career growth. But for you, it seems that consistency is what has helped you to achieve your career and growth. Would you like to speak to other lawyers now about leadership and consistency?
Sure. So why don't I start backwards? We'll talk about consistency. I am not someone who likes change for change's sake, and I know that some people do get a little antsy, for lack of a better word, and people are in need of a change of circumstances. And I don't believe that there's any one route, one path that's right for everyone. People have to find their own way. I would certainly advise people that, again, I'm not making this up. This is old stuff, and it's old stuff for a reason. The grass is not necessarily greener on the other side. And so, I'll come back to something I said earlier. My consistency is founded on having found something that I love to do and people who I love to do it with, luckily very early in my career. And I'm someone who, as I said, is not looking for change. I am looking to be happy and to be fulfilled and to have a rewarding career. But having found that place with those people very early on, why would I change? That being said, speaking to young lawyers who are looking to change, if you're looking to change because you're looking to find something that you really love to do, you don't love what you do right now, then I think that's fantastic. If you love the area of law or whatever business you're in, but frankly, you don't love the environment in which you're doing it, then absolutely, a change seems like a fantastic idea. Changing to make an extra $10,000, easy for me to say, I guess, at this point in my career, but I don't see that as being something that should be people's primary motivator. I do believe that financial success will come to those people who find success in those other areas, and that is, as I mentioned, finding something that they love to do and people who they love to do it with. Those are people who they can trust, who they can rely upon, who they can build something with together. Once you found that, to me, I don't understand the reason for change. And it's not about becoming complacent, quite the opposite. It's about having found the platform upon which you can then build, you can then grow your career. And that's where leadership comes from. Because once you found something that you really like to do, that you're passionate about, because people have a BS detector. They know if you aren't serious about what you're doing. I call myself, I don't call myself a happy personal injury lawyer. You had said happy before, which I am, by the way. I call myself a proud personal injury lawyer because I really do have a lot of pride in what I do. And as a result, I think I can come across as being very genuine because I am. As a leader and talking about the importance of what we do and some of the importance of some of the issues that we deal with. And then again, it's about building. And how do you build? You build by putting your stamp on whatever it is that you're building. And that's where leadership comes in. Everybody has something to offer. Everybody has something different to offer. I just contributed what I could, and the people around me took to that and thought that I had more to offer and asked me to put my hand up to take on leadership roles. And a lot of the times, that's the difference between leaders and everybody else, is that person that's willing to put their hand up and say, yeah, I'll do that. There's no prerequisites a lot of the time, other than hard work and a willingness, really, to do things that will help others and help your organization. And that's the way that I always felt. I've loved all of my leadership roles, again, mostly because of the people I had supporting me along the way.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so then, Adam, I want to still focus on your leadership because it's important for our viewers to see how much you have contributed, not only to your law firm, not only to your clients, but Ontario as a whole. I noticed that you are the past president of Ontario Trial Lawyers Association, but again, your consistency is what I'm following here. You have been with this association for about 15 years or more, and you are board member and then president and past president, and you've made landmark contribution to this association. Would you speak to our viewers about that?
Sure. Again, it took me a while, and I've done some work with some other legal organizations and some brain injury organizations as well. I actually tried to join the board of the Ontario Trial Lawyers Association much earlier than I did. There was one spot. There were essentially two applicants, myself and a lawyer named Judith Hull, who I didn't know, and we were both applying for that job properly. Judith got it. I didn't. At the time, I think I bought her a beer. That was our bet. And a few years later, some of the leaders in the organization came to me and said, "We'd like you to try your hand again. We think it's your time." And so I did. So I put up my hand and I put my name forward. Got onto the board of that organization, and again, wonderful organization, great people, trying to accomplish some great things for people in Ontario. And I was very passionate about it. I was given by other presidents an opportunity to lead up committees on that board. And it was after a number of years, I think it was the right time. I felt like I had something to offer as in leadership for that organization, and ran to be and was elected to be, or you're actually elected to be the vice president, but then there's a succession plan that moves you into the presidency. And it was a wonderful time, wonderful and complicated time in the organization. There was a lot of things going on that were very public at the time. Advertising was one of the very public issues that personal injury lawyers and the government of Ontario was dealing with. Contingency fees, referral fees, those were all things that were being reported about in the media. Personal injury usually isn't in the media, so I just happened to get maybe a little unlucky in terms of my timing to be president of the organization, but a time when personal injury was really on the front page of the newspapers. And working with the organization, working with all the firms that we could across Ontario, working with the government, and trying to come up with a plan that made sense for the public, that protected the public, that allowed lawyers to still build their businesses, and most importantly, I think to have a credible set of rules and principles that personal injury lawyers should follow is something that was a huge accomplishment during that period of time. And again, not my accomplishment. We did create, and I looked to people like Paul Hart and Ron Bone, who led the creation of the OTLA Code of Conduct for personal injury lawyers in Ontario, who are members of the organization. And I was fortunate enough to be president of the organization during a time where that was being released. By the way, there's so many other people that did a ton of work. It certainly wasn't just Paul and Ron, but their leadership was key. And again, we were able to accomplish so much because there were so many people who lent a hand, who gave us some input, and who really helped lead that in the right direction. I was just reading a note from one of the presidents who's taking over the organization now, and they talked about how really their goal was to leave the organization a little bit better off than when they found it. And that was certainly my goal during my year as president of OTLA. But it was I think I was on the board for about 13 years in total. It was a fantastic experience. It was challenging. I loved the work that I did up at Queen's Park, meeting with politicians, meeting with leaders, to try to make our system better for people. What we can accomplish is pretty incremental these days, but it's not going to stop us from trying.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adam, for your leadership. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, and really, as we come to an end, to thank you so much, because I reached out to you because you know that I lead a business group, and we want to make sure that all areas of law are represented so we can serve the population together. So I reached out to you to help us to get lawyers from the law firm you work for to join the Entrepreneur Nation. And you actually helped us to get 2 lawyers. We have Joe and Melissa as part of the Toronto chapter, and the other one that meets virtually that we call the Ontario virtual chapter. So I thank you so much. By doing that, it is supporting entrepreneurship. I want you to comment too on supporting entrepreneurship.
Sure. Well, the first thing that I would say is, people, I don't know why they seem surprised when they reach out to me and ask me for help or input, and I respond and provide help and input. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't that why we have email and messaging on LinkedIn and things like that, is for people to be able to reach out and ask for some help? And really wasn't, you were giving us the opportunity, frankly, Lucy. I didn't know that there were spots available in your organization, that there was a need, maybe an opening for some personal injury lawyers. And so you were actually doing us a favor by letting me know that. So, I think it comes back to that idea of helping people. And helping people isn't just what I do for a living. It's not just what I do as a personal injury lawyer. It's what I try to do, and what I hope everybody tries to do to some degree every single day. Helping people can be answering a question. Helping people can be investing, some money in a business that is starting up. Helping people can be answering a text on LinkedIn. There's lots and lots of different ways that we can all help without it taking too much time, costing too much money. And I do believe that all of those things are what goes into making someone's life and career positive and of benefit to the community. And that's really what, entrepreneurship is about. It's not about making money. It's about finding something that your community needs, something that doesn't exist, something that exists but isn't being done properly or efficiently or as good as it could be. And it doesn't matter if it's a product, if it's a service, if it's an app, whatever it is. If your mind is to helping people and helping to make your community better, then you're an entrepreneur, and that's who I like to help, and that's who I like to support. And that's if everyone had that as a goal, I think this world and certainly our communities would be a better place, and that's what we're all trying to encourage. Awesome. And I know you especially through the work that you do, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Adam. We thank you for your time. We are coming to an end now of this show. We really appreciate you for your time, but do you have any final words for our viewers? I don't want to repeat everything that I've said. I really do think, though, that there is happiness that everybody can find in their lives and in their career. And if they do focus on something that they love and surrounding themselves with good people like you, frankly, Lucy, which is why I've really enjoyed our relationship, as brief as it's been. Surround yourself with some good people, and your business and your life will be better for it. So thanks for being a part of mine. Thank you for being part of mine. I think you're a good person, and I'm happy that you are in my network. Thank you, Adam. Viewers, thank you so much for watching.